Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright, so it's actually been a while since we had the extremist conversation, or at least the extremist conversation within this specific context. Supposedly, we're the scary, very spooky mega extremists who cheer on horrible acts of violence. Oh my god, January 6th, that's what they keep saying. Supposedly, that's the narrative, that we're the bad people cheering on horrific actions, but of course, yet again, the exact opposite turns out to be true, huh? I think a lot of left-leaning people, people who identify as liberals, are getting a serious reality check today as they realize that the side that they've aligned themselves with, especially the far leftist side, is utterly despicable. Surprise to absolutely no one in Clown World 2023, leftist socialist types are cheering on open, violent acts of terrorism, and supposedly, we're the bad guys. We're the extreme group. Let's expose this clear hypocrisy. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright, so the left is once again imploding. Why, you ask? Well, it's very simple, actually described by Destiny here. He writes on Twitter, if you're a liberal, make sure to welcome all of our new ex-socialist friends who are shying away from the left after watching them openly cheer on terrorist activities. So there's a little bit of a weird situation happening between both leftist factions. I guess you have the more moderate, middle ground, corporate Democrats, and then of course you have the far left DSA socialist types. And it's this weird situation where once again you have a bunch of Democrats who thought that they were on the side combating extremism, now are surrounded by their leftist colleagues essentially cheering on terroristic acts. I don't want to focus on particular individuals, at least not totally, but rather focus on the political organizations that purport to represent large swaths of leftist Western socialists. Here's the DSA. That's the Democrat Socialists of America. New York City DSA. This is probably the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez faction. Tomorrow, October 8th at 1 p.m. in Times Square in solidarity with the Palestinian people and their right to resist 75 years of occupation and apartheid. Free Palestine. Here's a Hamas celebration rally in Times Square organized by the far left, socialists, and Palestinian nationals. A speaker talks about the Islamist attacks that killed hundreds of Israelis, mostly civilians, and the crowd cheers.
Early morning on Saturday, October 7th, our resistance stormed illegal settlements and paraglided across colonial borders.
All right.
In this operation, an Aqsa flood, the resistance fires more than 5,000 rockets reaching Tel Aviv.
Yeah, that's the official Democrat Socialists of America in New York City, at least the New York City faction, essentially celebrating Hamas's attack on Israeli civilians. So we're the side of extremism. You're obviously noticing a trend here, right? These American far-left socialist LARPers have convinced themselves in their own minds that they are freedom fighters and they support these sort of freedom-fighting causes. They've become so warped in their thinking, so convinced by their own lies, that they are willing to justify the worst type of action. In fact, they're willing to celebrate it as some sort of fight against oppression and apartheid. And we see it with everything, right? During the Black Lives Matter and Antifa riots, what did we hear from these far-left socialist types? The same thing over and over again, that people's actions were justified, that the only way to combat fascism is to, quote, bash the fash, and that violence is justified as a response to oppression. Yeah, well, that's a LARP, and in this case specifically, what are they justifying? What are they celebrating? They're clearly taking a stance here, but none of it makes sense. They're celebrating this vicious attack, supposedly against an oppressive regime. But from what I'm able to see, the only attack here, or I guess the only target of these Hamas attacks, seems to be innocent civilians. All of these LARPing leftists, somehow cheering as if it's an oppressed uprising, are essentially cheering on horrific, violent events targeting innocent civilians going to music festivals. That is essentially what far-left activists are cheering on. They're essentially making the argument that Hamas's actions in this case are justified. In fact, not only justified, but it seems like there's people across the Western world, in various cities across the United States, Canada, Europe, and Australia, essentially openly cheering on and celebrating Hamas's actions in Israel.
Palestine! Palestine! Palestine!
This is the far left socialist grift. Every single time it's the same thing, you know, tweets like this. What did y'all think decolonization meant? Vibes? Papers? Essays? Losers. Yeah, apparently decolonization is savagely, brutally attacking young men and women simply partying and having fun at a music festival, or indiscriminately bombing civilian buildings. I think this is probably the best response. So I guess we learned today that everyone who uses the term decolonize is just advocating for mass murder and war crimes. That is the modern far left in today's day and age. Yeah, excuse me if I don't buy the rhetoric or buy the far leftist communist propaganda, but something tells me that roaming groups of individuals committing horrible atrocities targeting mostly civilians, something tells me those aren't freedom fighters, simply fighting apartheid. It seems as though many leftists are finally waking up, opening their eyes and realizing exactly who the people that they've aligned themselves with truly are. Here's another leftist talking head, coming to a similar realization as Destiny. This is David Pacman's official Twitter account. He writes, "I wouldn't have believed it, but there are people posting straight up pro-Hamas stuff. This is like cheering for Al-Qaeda after 9/11. These are sick people, very sick." Now, I want to focus on one specific part of this tweet. He started off his sentence by, "I wouldn't have believed it." I mean, really? You wouldn't have believed it? How far are these leftist heads shoved up their own behinds? You wouldn't have believed it. It's literally the far left track record. It's probably the one thing, the one easiest prediction that anyone could have made following this news. Oh, here's a reenactment. Me waking up in the morning, logging on my computer, getting a message from one of my friends saying, "Hey, did you see what happened in Israel? Are you gonna make a video about it?" Then of course I'm thinking, what happened? I literally just woke up, seeing a couple videos, seeing some of the aftermath, and then immediately I think to myself, oh boy, I wonder what the Hamas caucus is gonna say. Oh boy, give it maybe 5 minutes and we'll have all kinds of socialist leftists all over Twitter essentially cheering on this attack. And of course that's exactly what happened, because it's not a "I wouldn't have ever believed it" situation. No, it's a, yeah, obviously the far left has been acting in this manner for years. There's nothing new. It's the easiest prediction to make. They're the freaking kings and queens of justifying political violence to promote whatever their preferred narrative is. You know, we don't call the progressive squad in Congress the Hamas caucus for no reason. They've been on the record for years, as well as most of their far leftist counterparts, promoting pro-Hamas rhetoric for a very long time. And now all of a sudden David Pacman is learning that that's his political side. Your head has been buried in the sand for far too long, my friend. You are on the side of justifying and cheering on terrorist actions. And that is, of course, nothing new. It's been happening for years. I don't have any strongly held beliefs in relation to whatever's going on in Israel. Not really my thing, not really personal for me. I'm sure both sides have committed horrible atrocities. That's true for literally any conflict. The only thing that I want in Israel is peace. I want these people to just stop. That's the only thing I know, and that's the only thing I'm willing to say. But one thing I know for sure is that I'm not taking a hardline side on this issue and cheering on horrific war crimes. Yeah, I'll leave that to the leftists. That's what I got for you guys on this one, though. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.